Hello everyone! So it's been a while since I've made a tutorial on building in Horizon Worlds, but I'm back. I've got a whole bunch of stuff planned, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss any. And also, please, it does take a bit of time and effort to plan and put these together, edit them, upload them, etc. So please do hit the like button. It will help me a lot. But anyway, with that little bit out of the way, what are we going to do today? We're going to learn to make big, squishy cushions, guys. And I'm not even winding you up. So I've got an example of some seat cushions just here. I'm going to just bring them back a second. So here are some examples of cushions, okay? So this is like a big white seat cushion. It's got kind of like nice rounded edges and stuff. Now you can do that with a bevel, but I'm going to show you a way to be just a little bit more organic with it. And then here we've got a nice sort of really squishy cushion with a nice pattern on it there. I'm not going to show you how to texture because I have covered texture on other videos. And if you haven't seen those other videos, I do encourage you go and check that out. They're all in the Horizon Worlds building playlist that's on my channel on YouTube. Let's go put this back. So without any further ado, guys, let's go for it. So there's going to be a few different types of cushions, as you've seen, that we're going to be making today. So we're going to start with a basic one, which is this sort of blue cushiony thing that you've seen. So you'll notice the first thing we've got is the camera. We click that and hit delete. I'm going to click the lights, and also we're going to hit delete on that. So we're left with just a standard cube. Now what I'm actually doing is I'm going to delete that too, because the default cube does come mapped with a material already, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to, so if I select the cube and then hit delete, cube is now gone. So now I'm going to press Shift and A, and Shift and A will pop up this menu that those of you who have done my earlier tutorial will know about. So we could add a cube into the mesh submenu. So we're going to do that. Right. Cube is created. And then I'm going to hit Tab to bring us into edit mode. So again, you know, when you hit Tab, it goes into edit mode. And you hit Tab again, it goes back into object. You can see that up here, which mode we're actually in when I press Tab. Object, edit, object, edit. So we need to be in edit mode, where we can see these little vertices popping up here, the little points on the corners. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into face mode, okay? And then I'm going to select the top edge, for example, and so the top face. I'm going to press G and then Z. So that's a grab on the Z axis, which allows me to pull this thing perfectly downward. Now, I do need a bit of thickness to this cushion for this to work, so I'm probably going to just take a guess and go about here. Okay. Well, the next thing I need to do is to do a loop cut. So that is, I use the F3 menu to do this, and then I type in loop cut. And I'm going to do a loop cut and slide. We don't really need the slide bit, but I'm going to just select that anyway for the loop cut. Now, with our mouse hovering just over on this edge here, you can see as I move around, standard sort of fare it is, drawing the loop cut wherever I want it to be. So once I click, it'll commit that. So if I just go for like this edge here, you can see at the top, that loop cut is going round. That's great. So if I move the mouse wheel upwards without clicking anything, if I just move that mouse wheel upwards, 1 notch, 2 notches, 3, 4, 5, let's go 6. There's no precise art to this, guys. You play around with whatever works for you. And then once I've got that, I just simply press Enter. 10. Now that's going to go into slide mode, which is going to move when I move the mouse pointer. So I just hit escape that, because if I hit the escape key, it's going to default the position to just center, which is perfect. That's how we want it. So now I'm going to do that again, but at a different angle. So I'm going to do a loop cut and slide using the F3 menu again. Okay. And you can see here, if I just hover over this side, the line is going this way. So if I move that mouse pointer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There we go. And I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to press escape. Oop, there we go. So I now have a box that's been really nicely sort of cross-sectioned. And that's really important for what we're doing, because we're going to be using cloth dynamics, and cloth dynamics need us to have pre-decided where our sides are, where our cuts are in this thing, to understand how it's going to bend the object. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to press F3. We're going to select loop, cut and slide again. This is the third time now. And now you'll notice we're on the side. So if we hover around this sort of side here, if we then move the mouse pointer up, I don't know, maybe that many times, maybe 3 cuts down here. We don't need it as many as the top faces. And this is why we haven't used subdividing, by the way. If you've used subdividing will apply. I'm going to press escape just to commit that. So subdividing will put the same number of cuts on every side. By doing this, we're keeping a little bit of control here. So, and then the next thing I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to come out of edit mode. So I'm going to press the tab key. Okay, wonderful. So it hasn't distorted our shape at all. But if I go into wireframe mode via, I'll have to move a little bit for you to see what I'm doing here. So if I go into wireframe up here, you could actually see there quite faintly the grid lines that we've introduced. So I'm going to put this back to this mode, whatever it's called, and then just slide myself back across. Wonderful. Okay, now I need to move a little bit out of the way just here, because we're going to be focusing in this section for the next part of this tutorial. So what we do, down here, there's one of these icons is for physics. So making sure that we've got, again, remember we're in object mode now. This has to be in object mode for this bit. If you're still in edit mode, press tab. But if we're in object, we're doing okay. So make sure the object's selected by clicking on it. Okay. And then what I want you to do is go to the physics button, which is just here. And if I click on that, I got a whole lot of stuff going on here. So I can stretch this menu bar a little bit just to give us some more space. So the thing that we're going to be doing today is cloth. Now, cloth gets applied as a modifier, but this panel makes setting the parameters on that modifier very, very easy. So if I click on cloth here, I have a full load of physics options, which is like, it's like flying a plane. That's gonna blow your brain. But the good news is we're only really interested in 2 of them. One is going to be under field weight. So if you scroll down quite a lot now, I have to move this up so you can see it on the screen. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay. So down the bottom, you've got field weights here. So if I go into field weights and just click on that little chevron, you can see I've got gravity, and we're going to set that to 0. And the reason we're setting gravity to 0 is because when we set our cloth physics to make this thing squidge up and become all nice and plump, we don't want it to fall downwards, because obviously gravity is part of the physics engine. So by setting it to 0, it's going to fix it in place, which is lovely. The second bit that we need to look, I need to remind myself what this is. If you ever can't remember where something is actually, and this is a good tip, at the top here, you've just got a search box. So I'm going to type in here, pressure. Okay, now what that's done is it's grayed out a lot, but it's made certain things kind of highlight a little bit here. So you can see that's actually got pressure highlighted now. So I'm going to tick the pressure box, which is really hard to see here actually, but there is a box. There you go. And if I tick it, it becomes a green tick. And you can see by doing that, it's opened up this pressure option. Now, you can play around with this for best results, but what we're going to do with this is a positive pressure, for example, 1 or 2, is going to make this object think it's like being pushed outwards, which is going to create a really interesting shape. So for now, I'm going to set it to 1, and then we're going to see what effect that has. So now we've set that up. I do need to show you the animation prompts actually, which is down the bottom. So you've got this little animation timeline down here, and it runs frame 1 to 250, which is interesting because behind the scenes there is a little thing to say your if I clear this a sec, your physics simulation runs from 0 to 250 somewhere. I think that's under scene or something, but we're not going to worry about that because we only actually usually need to grab one of the first few frames. So this is a process known as baking, but it's simulation baking. It's not quite the same as texture baking. So watch what happens now. If I press space while I'm clicked down here, did you see that? That's fun. So what that's done is it's applied pressure using our pre-negotiated subdivisions to create a really interesting shape. You can see we're on frame 20 down here of this physics animation. So now I've baked up to 20 frames. See if I go beyond it, it doesn't move because I haven't baked that. I have to leave it playing. So you press space to start the bake, you press space to end it. But if I go backwards pre-20, look what happens. You can see it's going through all its little permutations. That's really cute. So that doesn't look much like a cushion, which is okay. So we're going to work on that now. You notice the number of cuts we'll actually put in this will decide how strong this effect is. They always act as supports to the simulation. So the more cuts you have, the more rigid the face is. That's a general principle to bear in mind. Oh, by pressing tab and coming back out, the simulation gets screwed. Say you end up with really interesting shapes like this, but if you just slide this back to 0 every time, it resets it, okay? And likewise, you can kind of scan along to see what's happened on the baking. So let's put that back to 0 again. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to go back to this pressure, and I'm going to set that to something quite ridiculous, like 7. Put it, okay? And then we're going to press space to simulate this and watch what happens. Oh, there, you can see the pressure was much quicker. There was no dilly-dallying there. That just went incredibly fast. So if we set that back to 0, and then we're going to do it maybe 0.1, and let's see what happens. Any for you at all? Place your bets now. So if I press space, oh, look at that. Just create a really interesting sort of very slight indentation. So what I'm going to do now is that I've decided that actually that might be good for like a quite organic sofa seat. And these boxes as well, don't forget, and we have covered this in another video, that you can press tab when you're in object mode. So press tab, you can press F3 and you can set shade smooth on the object, which will give it a much smoother look. So if I set this back and then I go to set the pressure to maybe, I don't know, 2.5, and then we're going to run this. So it's created quite a nice that's quite a squishy seat. You might find some use for that. But what I've kind of decided here is I think there's too many splits on the side of this box. So what I'm going to try and do, if I can, is I'm going to start again. I think that's probably easier. So if I click on this, I do Shift A to create new mesh, and I'm going to create a cubed. Okay, then I'm going to do this again. So if I say in edit mode, make sure I'm on face select, grab Z axis, pull down to about, let's say here, and then we're going to say loop cut and slide, or from loop cut, and I just extend this out so maybe that many cuts. Notice as I'm not being precise this time. I'm just doing it sort of finger in the air style. Okay, and then I'm going to put one more loop cut just on here as a single side. That'll be. And then if we go find fluff, now we need to find, well, actually I'll show you what happens if you leave gravity on. In fact, you've kind of seen it, look, because it's kind of pre-baked the movement. You can see the gravity is actually kicking its bum there, it's making it fall. So that's why we turn gravity off. I'm kind of glad I did that by accident so I could show you. So if I set the gravity back down to 0, okay, on this new object, and then I go up to pressure, and I take this box, and I set that pressure to 2. Okay, now if I press, I'm going to make sure we're back here. I'm going to press space now to bake that. And again, this creates quite an interesting shape. But if I set that pressure to maybe 7, so what happens there, and roll it back to 0 every time. Okay. So there are a few other things that you can do. There's tensions, which you can, for example, say tension determines how much it keeps its shape together. So if I set that to maybe 2, all these things are absolute finger in the air, okay? It's like you play around with them and see what the results are. Okay, that hasn't had much of an effect. Max bending, look, I'm going to amp that up to maybe 5. Let's see what effect that has. Okay, that hasn't seemed to have had much of an effect. too. Yeah. Okay, so stiffness is probably the area that I should have shown you actually. So in the stiffness, we've got tension, compression, shear, and bending. Now, bending and tension are quite fun ones. I mean, they're all good, but let's set the tension to something a little less. So if I set that to 2, what happens? Oh, which pay? Let's take that pressure back down to 1, I guess. We'll have a bit of fun with this. So, what you can do to help guide the shape actually is if I loop select those, so that's shift and alt here on this line, I can actually sort of give it a bit of a help to pull it outwards. So we're scaling that now, okay? So if I go back to object mode, things back to 0, and then I say yo. So that's created quite an interesting shape there, look. But yeah, you can certainly play around with a lot of different effects. If you do want these things sort of smaller, for example, then what can we do? Can we loop cut here? Yeah, we can. And we're going to do another loop cut here. Fine. Left. Okay, so we're going to just select both of these. So that's the shift and alt select. And then, of course, we're going to stretch these out just a bit there. And then if we just go back to 0, let that simulation go. Oops, that would be in object mode, not edit mode, of course. So that's created quite a nice cushion shape. But again, if we apply shade smooth to that, you know, quite nice. There's a lot of tricks you can use in this there. You can pin things as well. So if you're making curtains, you can make sure that certain vertices or edges don't move. And that's a good trick to learn as well. I won't show you that on this video. Maybe another one in the future. But yeah, if I now delete that, you get the kind of gist for that. But the more cuts you've got in it, it allows for a bit more bending, but it can also add a bit more sort of structure to it as well. So let's move on secondarily to like draped objects. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in a plane on the floor. Okay, so that was a shift and A, and we've put a plane in just here. Oh yeah, sorry, there's something I meant to show. Let's go back a sec. So once you've got a shape that you're happy with, playing around with this, okay, we need to do something called baking this. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this kind of baking is not the same as texture baking, which you've probably come across, or light matte baking. Baking just means to commit something into something else. So we've been in this physics panel just here, okay? And what we need to do is work our way into the modifiers panel just here. So you'll see that this modifiers panel contains a cloth modifier. So you can use an apply in here. So if we click on this little button here, you can just say apply. There we go. And what that says now, that's actually committed that simulation. So it's no longer a simulation. There's no longer a modifier on it. That is in itself an object. And this trick is going to allow you to use lots of different sort of techniques. And when you move on to sort of sculpting as well, you'll be able to just bring in like little sort of tweaks as well, where you can sort of slightly sculpt that object just to make them all look a little bit different if you need to. As I said, I won't be covering texturing on this tutorial. That's covered by some of my other tutorials around UV mapping and materials, so please do check that. I'm trying to keep this one short. So we're going to move on now to a different kind of cloth simulation, which I'm going to call draping, and it's the effect that we use to put throws over the backs of sofas. So what I'm going to do is, if you've got a sofa model, well, by all means use that, but we're going to start just with a very basic shape. So if I just move this swishy cushion over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a very basic shape here. So we've got a cube. I'm going to just select face mode. This is just the setup. When you're creating a drape, you need something to drape it over, and ideally that would be like maybe a sofa or something. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a loop cut here, just a single one this way, and I'm going to grab and move it across the x-axis. If you're using loop cut and slide, this is easier to do, but next I'm going to say fine, F3, loop cut again. I'm going to do 2 here. So the first one, guys, is going to be this. And I'm going to grab that along the y-axis, like so. It's not very precise, do forgive me, I'm just making something very quick. So grab it and across the y-axis to a bit there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it at the back of this chair. So, G and Z. Oh no, hang on, sorry. Haha. Extrude upwards, like so. And then G. No, sorry, extrude. And on the Z axis, there we go. So we've got ourselves a very basic sort of chair shape. And then what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to have a look at this from the side because I need to line him up somewhat with the floor. So if I say G and Z and column up here, that's great. I've got a chair. Now I'm also going to put in a plane, which is going to be the floor. So if I just expand that outwards, so I've inserted the plane. Now I'm going to just scale him way up just to give us some kind of floor. And these are important because I now go back to the physics tab. Then I'm going to say, we're going to set this floor to a collider. So we do that by setting collision. We just click on that. We leave it alone. We don't come back, okay? There are things you can tweak in there, but we won't be covering that here. So same with this chair. Also, it's a collision object. We're going to hit collision on that. And that populates. And you can see that they've got collision applied, not just from this, but also it does add a collision modifier to both of the objects. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create another plane. And this is going to be our drape, okay? So if I go into mesh and into plane, I'm going to scale it up a little bit. It's not going to be quite as big as the floor, but it's going to be a decent size. And then if I grab that and move it upwards to about here, just over the top of the chair, not too high. Not again too crazy here. Yeah, it's about there, should be good. And then I'm going to use a subdivide this time. So I'm not going to use loop cuts in this because there's only one face. It's just quicker for me to subdivide. So if I do a subdivision surface here, yeah. I'm going to set it to simple because you'll notice it's gone to round on the Cat-Mull-Clark operation. So we want simple, which restores its sort of box shape. And the levels viewport, well, I mean, I can just up that quite a bit, can't I? Remember that as complex as you make these things for the simulation, to import them into Horizon World, they do recommend running them through a decimate to simplify them after you run your simulation. That's kind of important. So if I just up this again to 6, really, it's like, yeah, fine. So that's doing that, and then we add in the physics tab, you're gonna add cloth in, okay? Yeah, and just simply set cloth. And then what we're gonna do is we should have run the simulation and watch what happens. So to summarize, the floor is a collider, the sofa is a collider, this plane here is a cloth object. So the cloth object is going to hit the colliders and react to them. So if I just press space now, watch this. Sexy, huh? So you'll notice that you will have to sort of fool around with this quite a lot. Again, don't forget you can set these shades smooth on to create a really nice sort of smooth thing. But look out for these as well. You're going to have custom bending allowances on these things. So this is going to take a bit of adjustment, and this is where time gets kind of lost a little bit. So tension, you can adjust this. So if I set tension to like 1 as an example, and I just rewind that simulation, I let it simulate again by pressing space. What happens? Anything at all? It didn't appear to have any effect. Not really. So if I come back this way, it is quite a tight gap there, to be fair. There are, I think, their own weight. Air viscosity is a good one. Let's try playing around with that. 0.2. So add. Oh. Don't know what effect that had. I think that was just to do with how it falls through the air when it's free falling. So gravity we can increase here. So So gravity is needed in this one, unlike the last one. So if we set that to like 50 times gravity, let's watch what happens. This is going to go mental. You ready? Oh, Jesus. So, again, the effects of physics are forces fighting each other. So if you set it too ridiculous, you can end up with things just literally passing through each other. So let's set back to something like 3 and see what happens. So, has that created... It's almost like an air bubble below it, which is quite fun. Let's set that back to here. And if we go back to here, we got collisions. Okay. Let's set the vertex mass. So the vertex mass, I believe, is the weight of the individual points in the simulation. So if I make that a slightly crazier value, that's going to make each of the points that make up the whole thing of that plane that we subdivided weigh more. So it should allow it to sort of stretch downwards. But let's find out. Hey, really? Not really. Let's set it to a silly value. Let's go up to something like 4 kilograms and see what we got. Okay. The air viscosity is an interesting one. I'm convinced. If we set the compression to sort of 3 as well. It's definitely having an effect. The bending, I'm going to allow that to be higher as well. So let's say 3. But yeah, you can spend a lot of time here just fiddling with these things, but just keep an eye on what's happening the rest of the simulation as well. It's creating some really nice patterns. Boom. What if I set this up to 40? This is going to be silly. Again, you can sometimes go a little bit overboard trying to up the parameters just to suit some kind of a curve when actually it might be having a detrimental effect on everything else. So let's just set that back to, I think it was 0.3 before, wasn't it? Air viscosity, let's set that down to 0. What happens? I think tall. I mean, that's the thing, it is actually behaving like a throw wood, and I think the weight of this cell around it as well might be negatively impacting it. So let's try scaling it inwards. If I just sort of apply that rotation scale, what happens now? Oh, it's cute, isn't it? Like, oh, look, it's actually falling off the chair. That's so wonderful. Okay, so let's just take that back and scale it up, put that down, and go. Cute. And actually, to freeze frame it at any point in your simulation, you can bake it. So even if sometimes, yeah, you've got things like crossing over like there, look, that's ugly as crap, right? You want that. But if you sort of allow it to sort of solve itself over time and you move across to a different frame, you can actually bake it at sort of any level, really. Right. And don't forget as well, you can create very different effects by if you sort of grab it and then move it on an axis. You might find this will just fall off the back now, really. You know. Yeah. That's nice, isn't it? Just to sort of remind as well, as you go into your modifiers, you can apply your subdivision, apply your cloth. Oh, actually, I'm gonna pull this into a simulation, so let's just pull it back over here where it was sort of baked. And if I apply that and apply that, I now have cloth. Yeah, sorry, that's cloth physics, guy. It's not the best tutorial you'll probably see on it, but it's the basis of it. And if you follow those simple sort of areas, that you'll have yourself lovely fancy cushions and throws in no time at all. All right. One last piece of advice I would give you, if you're UV mapping anything onto this, I would texture your plane, if you like, before actually committing it through a physics simulation, because trying to UV map a distorted surface is always going to come out with some pretty funny results that you probably don't want. So yeah, do that. Apply your UV map and then watch it bend. What? Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that is in some way helpful to all you builders who want to make sort of nice throws on sofas or squishy cushions. And hey, you can use this kind of technique to do a whole lot of stuff as well. You can make bedding, really nice ruffles and stuff. And, you know, creased sheets and stuff. But yeah, enjoy and good luck. Go knock 'em dead. See you later.